I've made loads of videos here on the channel talking you guys through how to pick the very best CPUs, GPUs and cases for your next gaming PC build. But one component that often gets overlooked in the part selection process is this, your power supply. And this is despite it being one of the most important components in your entire build. Not only from the point of view of getting the very best value unit for your budget, but also choosing a power supply that's actually compatible with the components that you want to pick up and has the crucial power delivery that you need now and potentially into the future. And that's why in today's video, I'll be walking you through how to do just that. How to pick the best PSU for your build that strikes the right balance between price, performance, and wattage. Talking you through the differences between a non-modular, semi-modular, and fully modular power supply, and explaining whether you really need to care about ATX3, ATX 3.1, Cybernet. There's a lot to cover, but I'm going to break it all down and hopefully help you guys pick the right PSU for your next gaming PC build. After, of course, a quick word from today's video sponsor. Did you know that this year marks the 20th anniversary of Asus Republic of Gamers? And to celebrate, they're giving 2 lucky winners the chance to fly out for this year's Computex in Taiwan, with your flight and hotel stay covered for good measure. All you've got to do to enter is post a photo or video showing off your Asus ROG gear. Talk about your story with ROG and use the hashtag ROG Homecoming UK. Then use the first link in the description below to submit your entry, and you could be one of the lucky winners. Check out all the details at the link in the description below, including full terms and conditions and all the info you need to know to enter. Now let's start off with the very basics by talking about what a power supply actually is and why you need one for your next gaming PC build. Now in short, the power supply is the really important component that takes the AC current from your wall outlet and then splits this out into the DC current formats that your components can use and understand. With any gaming PC build, there are different components that need to get power. The CPU and GPU tend to be the most power consumptive of all of the parts in your build, but the power supply will also provide the crucial wattage needed for any fans that are in your gaming PC, any RGB hubs or strips, and of course things like old school SATA hard drives and SSDs. Now it does this in a few different ways. Obviously we have power in on one side, and then on the other side we have a variety of connections which stem out to each of your individual components. Now power supplies come in 3 different form factors: fully modular, like this one from MSI, semi-modular, whereby common cables like the motherboard and CPU power cable come pre-attached, and then also non-modular units, something a little bit like this thermal tape unit here, which you can see the cables are all pre-ran in, they're ready to go, and you don't have a choice over what is plugged in and where. You're probably then wondering, okay, well, which one is better of those 3? And the truthful answer is technically none. If you were to have the exact same PSU with the same internals and the 3 different interfaces, the actual end result for your components would be exactly the same. The advantage of a fully or semi-modular interface though is you only plug in the cables you need. Take this Lee & Lee SX1000P for example. It's got a power connector output here for our high powered GPU, and then also some power connections for the older style AMD GPUs which use a different connector. You're only likely going to need one of these types of connection in your build, so having all the cables already plugged in and perhaps unable to remove or configure as you wish means you've then got extra cables you're not using which you need to manage within your build. Now on particularly high-end builds, this can actually make a really big difference because, wow, where do you put them all? And of course, it gives you a little bit more choice in terms of the cable configuration that is available. Personally, I much prefer fully modular units as and where they can be found, and anything about 850 watts or above should really be using a fully modular interface to stop a horrible rat's nest of cables. At those higher wattages in particular, you're going to have more GPU power cables, more CPU power cables, more SATA power cables, and that can become difficult to manage. So that's modularity, but the next big point to talk about is wattage. And this might seem obvious, but it's the most important part when looking for a power supply. Now, modern PC power supplies range typically from about 550 watts through to around about 1200 watts. Now, there are some exceptions to this. MSI, for example, do this absolutely chonking MPG 1600 watt power supply, and we have seen brands go even higher than this as and where required. Equally, there are, I'm sure, really low-end units that get assembled inside of like office PCs and stuff that do 200 or 250 watts. The principle of all these designs is the same. Now, for most modern gaming PC builds, you're likely going to be picking up a 750 watt, 850 watt, 1000 or 1200 watt unit. Now, choosing the right power supply wattage for your build can can be very, very difficult. But we need to look at a few factors when bearing in mind how much you actually need. Now, the first factor is the components that you're planning to install within your build. A high-end GPU like an RTX 5090 is always going to require a lot more power than a more modest RTX 5060. Similarly, when it comes to CPUs, a Ryzen 9 9950X3D where you're lighting up all cores in DaVinci Resolve is going to need a lot more power than a more modest Ryzen 5 9600X. Every single GPU manufacturer publishes on their website a recommended PSU wattage for a typical configuration with that model of card. Let's take, for example, the RTX 5070 Ti. This has a recommended wattage of 750 watts, and this calculation is based off the kind of hardware NVIDIA are expecting you to be pairing the 5070 Ti up with. For example, in this particular instance, they're not imagining that you're going to be using a top-of-the-range Threadripper CPU and have 100 hard drives. Equally, on the really high-end stuff like a 5080 or 5090, where your recommendation is going to be 850 watts or higher, they're accounting for the fact you're going to be using a powerful CPU. When you look at these recommended wattages, it's not that's the power supply this GPU needs, it's that's the power supply we'd recommend for a build with this GPU that kind of sits in the expected region. Now, there are of course other tools you can use to look at how much power your build might need. You can assemble your system, for example, in PC Part Picker, and that will give you a more realistic expected power consumption figure. Now, if you do this, what you'll probably find, and I can demonstrate this by having a 5070 Ti representative build, is that we're well under the 750 watts recommended by the manufacturer. James, why is this? And that brings me on to the next important point of today's video: efficiency. Now, every power supply is rated at a certain output. So this Lee & Lee unit, for example, is rated at 1200 watts. But every power supply also loses power via efficiency loss when it converts from the DC power that goes in to the AC power that comes out. It loses some of that as heat and noise via the capacitor and fan. And what that means is that your power supply is probably not going to quite deliver the wattage that you might expect from the label. And that's where power supply efficiency certifications come in. Now, currently there's two major bodies that do power supply efficiency ratings: 80 Plus and Cybernetics. Each of them have their own different levels from lowest to highest in terms of efficiency. For Cybernetics, this starts from bronze and ranges all the way through to diamond. The bronze efficiency rating is above or equal to 82%, but less than 85%, while the diamond is over 93%. And I'll pop the table on your screen now, which gives you all of the different levels. The 80 Plus standard is fairly similar. That ranges from the standard 80% plus rating, which is 82% at 20% load, 85% at 50% load, and 82% at 100% load, and ranges through to titanium, where you're going to be seeing well over 90% efficiency at not just 20, 50, and 100%, but also 10% load scenarios. Now, ultimately speaking, a lot of power supplies nowadays are achieving the gold standard, and for most people, that's going to be more than enough. If you're going for a fairly high-end system like a 5070 Ti, 5080, 9070 XT, it's probably a good idea to get a power supply with a strong rating. But equally, if you're building a system on a budget, going for example, say for a cheap 650 watt unit, while it's important to have one with a good quality certification, you don't need to obsess about the maximum level of efficiency. And that's because A, it's not really required, and B, if you want to try and combat some of this power loss via efficiency, you can also just step up to a slightly higher wattage where you're naturally going to gain a little bit more headroom. Now, there is another way of looking at power supplies, and there's some great testing that's done as part of what's known in the PC building world as the PSU Tier List. Now, this is a really handy free online resource that gives you amazing information when it comes to power supplies. It can be a bit hard to find. I always search PSU Tier List on Google, then find the Reddit result, and then click the Google Docs file. And you can see how popular this is because online right now, there's like 77 people currently viewing it. Now, this works in a few different ways, and you can obviously read up on this documentation, but what you want to look at mainly is the main list. From here, you can see all the different brands of power supplies. We've got all of the big ones you would expect alphabetically ordered. You can see, for example, Cooler Master, we've got every single unit, and what it's going to give you is the wattage of that particular range and the tier rating. That tier rating is based on its performance across a number of different fields to the right. Now, there are some like absolutely savage ones that are really funny, like this one here, which is apparently complete e-waste, extremely poor build quality and component quality all around. Now, you can use Control F and you can just go through and search in here. If I'm looking for Corsair RME, for example, you can see we've got the whole RME lineup. We can look for whichever generation we deem to be the most appropriate. And here you can see as well how power supplies have evolved over the years. This RME range, for example, used to just be standard, then they added Gen 5, now ATX 3.1, and you can see the release years and then all of the different ratings and certifications. You can can also see who the power supply ODM is. So that's actually the company who have made the actual power supply and the actual capacitors within the unit. A lot of these OEMs are the same. So you're going to see lots of the same names pop up here throughout. A great resource. I'll link it down below. Big shout out to SPL for putting this together because it's actually genuinely really useful. Ultimately, even if you're just clicking on here to take a look at a power supply before you buy it to make sure it's not a predatory scam, probably a useful resource. Okay, so we've covered the PSU tier list, we've covered efficiency, and we've covered wattage. But there's another couple of big terms that you've probably seen flying around when shopping for the world of PSUs. They're ATX3 and ATX 3.1, and PCI Gen 5 and PCI Gen 5.1. As you can see, pretty much all the power supplies on the table in front of me are certified to either the ATX3 or 3.1 standard. ATX3 and 3.1 are actually standards designed by Intel that dictate how a power supply should be delivering its power to the components in your build. It dictates things like idle power consumption, ability to deal with transient spikes, all actually genuinely really useful stuff. We're seeing lots of modern power supplies conform to the ATX3 and 3.1 standard, and having these as a rating on your power supply can be beneficial. They often come hand in hand, but aren't exclusively tied to PCI Gen 5 and Gen 5.1 support. In order to understand PCI Gen 5 and 5.1, we need to look back to when Nvidia first released their RTX 30 series GPUs back in 2020. That's nearly 6 years ago. Now, in order to understand what this PCI Gen 5 and 5.1 certification is all about, we need to look to the world of GPUs. And we can actually cast our minds right back to 2020, that's right, 6 years ago, to the launch of Nvidia's 30 series. On the RTX 30, 80 and 90, Nvidia introduced their new 12-pin connector. The idea was that rather than powering up a GPU via big 6+2 pin cables, and on high-end graphics cards you might need 3 or even 4 of these depending on the power required, Nvidia felt it would be better to move to a single cable. Now, this wasn't without its controversy. We did see various instances where these power cables would actually burn out. We saw a lack of voltage protections when things went wrong, and it all got a little bit messy. Lots of people still had power supplies that didn't have the cables, so we were using dongles and splitters and adapters, and the whole thing just was a bit wild at the time. You see, the thing is, at that point in time, Nvidia were using a proprietary Nvidia design. It was a 12-pin connector. With 40 series, we moved to what looks like an identical connector, but actually contains an extra 4 pins. These 4 pins are known as sensing pins. The actual power pins themselves remain physically the same in terms of size and layout, but the sensing pins are an addition that were added to protect the graphics card in your build. Fast forward to the RTX 50 series, and we've now moved to the 12-volt high power connector as part of the PCI 5.1 standard. In short, if you've got a power supply with a PCI 5 or 5.1 rating, you know you're going to get the full-fat PCI Gen 5 power cable straight out of the box natively. You won't have to use an adapter for your next gaming PC build if you're using a high-end Nvidia GPU, and basically all of these power supplies also give you the old-style 6+2 pin GPU power cables too, giving you good compatibility for both Nvidia and AMD GPUs. Ultimately, if you're going for an Nvidia card, for me, ATX3 and PCI Gen 5 or higher are both absolutely instrumental. Now, it's not just PCI Gen 5.1 and ATX 3.1 that PSU brands use to set their designs apart. And that brings me on to the final section I wanted to cover in today's video, which I'm going to label special features. Now, special features come in a range of different formats and designs. One of those is, for example, what you'll find on the Corsair power supply range, which is their new edition called Shift. Now, this is where Corsair have moved to these new Type 4 cables that really trim down the size needed on the power supply interface and move the connectors onto the side. They call it Shift because they've, well, shifted the cables, and the idea is that when you slide the power supply into the back of a standard case, you can now much more easily access the interface to plug in the cables you need. Now, it doesn't work for everything. There are some instances where actually this can cause incompatibility, as cases are not all designed to accommodate this, but in most traditional ATX towers, it can be a nice welcome addition. You'll also find on some power supplies a move to fully digital control. This MSI 1600 watt unit's got a USB-C port that you can use to plumb it into MSI Center and keep everything monitoring nice and easily in software. That's going to allow you to see real-time power usage. It's going to allow you to see if there's any power surges, and in theory, give you the information you need to prevent potentially a fairly expensive fault that might affect your system. We also see that Asus have these extra sense pins in their PCIe Gen 5 power connectors. Again, that's going to regulate voltage and try and prevent some of the issues we've seen around these power supply cables burning out. And lots of power supplies nowadays will also come with silent features or semi-fanless operation. That's where the power supply has a fan, but it only kicks in beyond a certain power consumption or of course operating temperature. The idea is to keep the noise in your system to a minimum so that your build is a bit more pleasant to use. Cables are another area where brands will differentiate themselves. Some power supply cables are not particularly nice and rather ugly. We've moved nowadays to exclusively all black or all white designs depending on the unit you buy, which is good, but expensive power supplies will often come with individually nylon or actually fabric sleeve cables, something which can of course reduce or remove the need entirely for external PSU cable extensions. There are lots of things that power supply brands will do to differentiate themselves from one another because fundamentally lots of these PSUs are the same. They're made by the same OEMs and just repackaged differently by the likes of Lee, Corsair, Asus and MSI to name just a few. Ultimately, the main thing to get right with power supplies is to go for one where you've got a good warranty, you know you're going to get good customer support, and to make sure the wattage is adequate. Allow for any extra upgrades that you might want over time and factor this in when actually looking at what power supply you should buy, but don't go overboard. It's very easy to spend far more money than you actually need. The GPU recommended wattages are the most important thing to swear by in my opinion, and a bit of common sense applied here goes a long way. Let's say you buy a 5070 Ti, you can see from the site that a 750 watt unit is what Nvidia are going to recommend. If you know you're going to go for a crazy high-end CPU and you want to do some overclocking, then add a little bit extra on top. Equally, if you're going to go for a high-end GPU but know that you're actually going to be quite modest in the hardware used, then you can stick with the requirements set out on the website and you'll be absolutely fine. I'll link an article below covering our very favourite PSUs right now. I didn't want to kind of focus on that too much at the end of this video and kind of push you into exactly what you should buy. Instead, I wanted to arm you with the tools to actually easily pick the right unit for your next system. But you can find our recommendations below, which covers a broad range of different prices, wattages, and efficiency ratings. If you enjoyed today's video, make sure to get subscribed for more PC related content. Thank you for watching, and as always, we'll see you in the next one.